It's hard to pin down a trend with how wide and evolved we've become. But yeah, the idea of smartphones not being on the forefront is kind of kooky. Well, here's the thing. With how connected things are, and with I think more so than the connectedness of people, with the availability of options that are out there for people to watch, listen to, read, do, games to play, places to go, food to eat, beer to try. What's happening is you're really just losing the whole concept of genre, right? The whole concept of a genre of music, even, right? You have artists now that have grown up and become popular during a time where they had so much option that they were a fan of country, R&B, and fucking metal, right? So you got artists that are now doing basically concept album to concept album of things that they like to do. So you just see genres disappearing. It almost begs the question with what with Twitter catching fire, if maybe we're kind of hitting the maximum stretch on our technological rubber. No. I just think you'll have people that keep going and people that are left behind. It's just what happens. You have people that are going to keep going and growing with the technological trends, or you just have people that are going to be left behind. And that's with just about anything. Yeah, I mean, I think that honestly, it's not going to be a thing of like outstretching rubber or how things are going to shape up. I think you're just going to have people who embrace new technology that come out and people who just go the opposite direction. You're going to have people who are almost like they're going to be like digital hippies, right? Where they're like, no, man, MP3s, ripping CDs is the way to go, man, right? And then you're going to have people who are just going to embrace whatever the new thing that comes along is. Like, you don't have as much, you're going to have less and less physical, tangible things that people find sacred, right? It's going to be more digital based. It's going to be more experience and convenience based. It's not going to have much to do with having stuff as much as it used to, which is what's kind of driving the older generations crazy right now, right? Like, they don't understand how a generation or people can be happy with, making enough to cover their bills and to pay for their hobbies and not yearning for more than that. Like, not saying that's the case for everybody, because there's always going to be greedy people or people who have higher aspiration to move further. But I'm talking about like people who are like, no, I'm good. Like, I just want to eke out a comfortable life and hopefully have a little something to show for it when I retire. Or there's some people who don't even care about retirement. They're like, I'm just accepting the fact that I'm going to work the rest of my life, until I can't. So it's going to be interesting, but I think the material side of things is just going to change. I think there still will be materialistic things that people go after, but I think they're going to be more intangible type things. Oh, there will never be an extinction of people who want the bleeding edge, latest and greatest, but it almost feels like we're snapping back, like vinyl, like old school shaves and dressing properly. Do you notice how little you see baggy jeans now versus 5, 10, 15 years ago? Well, some of that's just trendy stuff. I think part of the problem is not even the problem, but part of why things like vinyl, things like nostalgic things, we're just reaching that age where the things that appeal to us, like me and you, Carrion, the things that appeal to us are nostalgic, and like, for the most part, our age group has the money to buy those things. We have jobs, where, a lot of us can't afford a house. Some of us are lucky to have a house, but a lot of us can't afford a house. So we just rent and we fucking hang out and we buy the things we like. I think the perceived lack of desire for more comes from the realistic inward look at reality and how it's currently designed to fuck us. Partially, I could see that. I think that'll change. I think everything goes in cycles, and eventually it's going to change. It's not that we don't want more, but to know it's ice skating uphill seems like a fool's errand. So we're tempering our expectations. Howie Roll says, I think different people find joy in different things. Some people enjoy work and structure, while others, like me, not so much. There might also be some frictional generation gaps. It's tough to keep up with teenagers when I hate teenagers. Yeah, I mean, that's like the grumpy old man thing, right? Grumpy old man syndrome. It's only been within the last 5 or so years that people have woken up to the idea that life is more than just working. I think the pandemic had to do with a little wake-up call. Yeah, I think it changed a lot of the way people feel about working. They're like, oh, shit, I could do this and be fine, and I don't know. They just the value, the stuff that people are valuing now are more intangible type things, right? Like time with your family, time with your significant other, time with your kids, stuff like that. Like, hell, man, like that's what I value. I think America's culture is the problem, but it's because you are raised on everything is a competition. Maybe like it's the whole idea of the rat race, right? Like it's like get out there, like it's one of those things where like you have like really hardworking people who are just trying to make sure they had a good life, and then pushing their children, right, who were like maybe our grandparents or our parents, to do more, and maybe in a much more overbearing way than they needed to, and then that shit rolls downhill, right? So you keep building that pressure up generation upon generation. All of a sudden you're going to get a big pushback. The pendulum can only swing one fucking way before it goes back the other, if that makes any sense. Working to live and have fun in America. People look at you like you're weird because you aren't trying to Gordon Gekko. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's an entire generation, and not all of them, obviously, but there's a large generational cultural kind of stigma, right, toward people who don't want to take that next step. There's family that has wondered why I don't aspire to do more, or why I'm not more hungry. And I'm just kind of like, because I want to hang out with my kid, because I don't want to be gone all the time, because I don't want to wake up one day and be like, fuck, man, I'm about to retire. What the fuck have I been doing? And not remember like large swaths of your life. It's exactly right. And thankfully, it seems like it's waning in bits and pieces. Working hard and doing your job right is important, yes, but more and more people are stopping to consider their worth and how finite time really is. High expectations for your young has existed for a long time. Either it's like even way back in the day, it was like, no, you're going to take on the family business, or you're going to go to college, or you're going to go into the fucking military, or all three. But like I said, people's motivations differ. I talk about this with my dad loads. For example, he is motivated by achievement, progress, and title. My dad would never be a bin man, even if it paid high 6 figures. Whereas I'm a super confident dude who doesn't care about perception. I would do any job for that money. Yeah, I mean, dude, when I started going gray, the amount of people in my parents' generation, like including my dad, were like, "Are you gonna dye that?" Like, dude, the appearances, my dad, as sweet as he is, like, his hopes for his kids are very different than my hopes for myself, right? He's like, I just want to see you guys get work your way up and have really good paying jobs and, do better than I did. Like, that's been the mentality for a long time. Do better than I did. I might be the first kid that's not going to do better than like my dad, right? Some of my other siblings are doing great. It's amazing how often people drunk come up to me and say something like, man, you were always cool. A super nerdy guy who doesn't care and is just as confident. How do you do it? At times I almost can't understand. There's people who just never, ever, what's up, J-Pod, that never, ever get comfortable in their own skin. They never do. They never get comfortable in their own skin. And it's kind of crazy. Like, I am completely confident in the person I am. You know, of course, I would love for my podcast to be bigger. I would love for streaming to take off. I would love all that, but it's not killing me on the inside that it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to do good content and hang out with fun people and have these discussions. I love these discussions. Became a prisoner of the generation before them, and they never had the will or the strength to be themselves and do what makes them happy. Yeah, because they live in that shadow of disappointment. Nothing was ever good enough. When you talk about those people and say, what do you think about the people judging you? Nearly always they say, well, everyone thinks they are dicks, so why care? Yeah. Dude, I've been on the I don't give a shit wagon for a long time. Like, I remember being in high school and like just not giving a fuck and being like, look, and you know, you do dumb stuff in high school and college, and that's fine, but like, I absolutely could care less. Like, I was just like, as long as you're doing the things that make you happy, like, what more can you ask for? You know, what more can you really ask for? Problem with people knowing themselves is that you can't teach it. Yeah, it's like how important people think their image in high school. Well, I mean, and you're seeing it all over again with social media, with TikTok, with Instagram and stuff like that. You're kind of getting a different version of that, where like you're getting that generational pressure, but instead of coming from above, it's like coming from your peers, right? It's coming from your peers, and sometimes that pressure is coming from generations below you that you know, you read about, oh yeah, this 12-year-old YouTuber makes $6 million a year, you know, something like that, and you're like, what the fuck? What's happening? Why am I not doing this? How's this happening? Hit the nail on the head. 100% credit my attitude to my parents, even though my attitude surprises them. I mean, Howie Roll, would you say your parents were very nurturing about who you are and what you wanted to do, and very much like, look, go after your fucking dreams? You know, were they ever pressure? Like, my parents were like, their expectation was, you finish high school, you go to college, which I don't think is a bad thing if you're mentally ready for it. But what I ended up doing is going to 4 or 5 different colleges and not ever settling on a fucking major, and wasting a lot of money and time when I could have fucking went and found myself for a few years and then come back and did something with all that money and time. A lot of money and time. Parental upbringing goes a long way to either fuck a person over or to help them become truly free. The parents who want to live vicariously through their kids versus those who unconditionally support their kids. There's a big to-do about that. Like, the pressure you put on a kid, even unknowingly, right? When you're just kind of like, because your kid wants, for a while anyway, they want to please you, right? They want you to be happy with them, and so you try to get them excited about something you're excited about, and you don't realize you're putting like a weird peer pressure on them to fucking like something, right? So I don't know, man. It's a weird balancing act of like, maybe showing them things and introducing them to things, but not being like, come on, let's sit down and watch this. You'll like this. Come on, you'll like this. Come on. We'll sit down and watch Ghostbusters and you'll like it. Like, and then they're just kind of like, well, if I don't like it, what's wrong with me? Right? You also almost give them a complex as to why they're not liking something that you like, when it's just the fact that you're old and the shit you like is old and it doesn't hold their attention. Now, sometimes they do like it. I mean, there's a reason why fucking there's kids that like a whole bunch of stuff, right? They always push me to say my piece and try things from being like 4 years old on. And they wouldn't order food for us at a restaurant. They would read us the menu and insist that we tell the waitress our order. That's kind of cool. Were they people who, kids menu? There's a lot of people who refuse. There's a lot of restaurants now that refuse to do a kids menu, which I fucking completely agree with. Like, I don't think a kids menu is bad for really, really young kids. But like, once a kid gets a certain age, like, you should be ordering like what real food tastes like, not just chicken nuggets everywhere. Gives wild confidence in the long run. That's the one thing I wish that I could have had a little more training on when I was a kid is talking to people. Like, I know I do what I do now, right? And I've done, all the stuff I've done in my past professionally. But like, I was not very good at, I was not a very confident speaker when I was younger. It took me a while to grow into this. A lot of that lack of confidence also comes from not knowing what would make you happy. So the whole do what makes you happy never gets resolved. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's why you kind of like, at least my goal anyway is to like find, like, just kind of pay attention. What is she enjoying? What does she gravitate towards? Like, you can even watch it with toys, and when a kid's not even 2 years old, like, you think, oh man, this toy is fucking cool. Like, she's gonna love this. And then all she really likes is this one baby doll that she calls Sally, that never has clothes on for some reason, but she's always talking about Sally, and she's got all these badass toys. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the toys being badass, right? It has everything to do with what they're connecting to. And you have to be like, cool, grab Sally. Like, I'd never pressure her to play with something that she doesn't want to play with. I show her how it works, and then, every now and then she'll go and play with it. But it's fucking, you just have to do it. You have to let them figure that thing out. And then you lean into the things they enjoy. You see they're enjoying something? See if they want to do more of that thing. See if they want to try something else in that genre or that area. I think the biggest enemy of confidence is the feeling that you're trapped into caring what other people think. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. And especially when you're figuring out who the fuck you are, like, at the same time. Like, that's why high school and middle school is so fucking weird, man. Some people figured it out early. Some people figured it out late. I didn't figure that shit out until, like, I was pretty confident by the later half of high school. I was pretty confident. Always asked our opinion and challenged us in a positive way. That's good. American culture typically doesn't offer opportunities for failure, though. Like Howie Rolls said, it's very competition based, but I think that's changing. One of my favorite questions in a job interview is, what do I think failure means? And failure to me always means opportunity. Whether it's growing from learning from something, or figuring out something doesn't work, or, or just realizing, okay, we got to do it a different way. Like, I feel like failure is like the best fucking thing that you could have. And a lot of people, I think, get handicapped because they don't get to experience failure too early in life sometimes. So you have to have that weird mix of like helping your kid along while also allowing them to mess things up. Like, it's so tempting when a kid, you don't want your kid to fall, but they have to learn that gravity is a thing, right? Like, I'm not saying let them fall from a high place, but like, sometimes they've got to figure out, like, this can hurt you. For the longest time, we were like, if we're working in the kitchen and doing something, we're like, hey baby, we need you out of here because the oven's hot. Let's not go up and do that. And like, what does she want to do? She wants to go and touch the fucking oven, right? And I had to tell my wife, I was like, at some point she's gonna go over here and touch that oven and learn what hot is. Like, it happened to me. Like, it happened to everyone. It's just like, you can't pre-prepare. I was talking to the wife about this. You can't pre-prepare somebody to get their heart broken, right? You can't pre-prepare them to let them know when someone is wasting their time when they're dating you and they're not being really serious about you. And you can't also tell people, conversely, how to not waste other people's time. There should be a class in breaking up with people. There should be a class in how fucking credit cards work. There should be a class in how, like, to fucking figure your shit out when you're not having a good fucking year, and how to be like, that's fucking okay. Someone posted in a subreddit the other day that their kiddo was into planets and space and was asking for suggestions on how to help foster that for her. And I was like, well, that's different than I remember. Yeah, it's pretty different. You want to foster those things, but you don't want to be overbearing about it, but you also don't want to discourage them. Like you never know what's going to like become an earworm in a kid's head. Like, if they're singing something, you're like, oof, that sounds terrible. And you might be joking. And then all of a sudden they have a complex about their singing or about something they're doing. It's because our generation was the be productive generation, not the find yourself generation. Yeah. What is weird, and I didn't know at the time, is that I was kind of a leader / social kid. People wanted to be in elementary. I was mega nervous and self-conscious in elementary school to early high school. I grew into confidence like yourself. At the time, I didn't feel like the guy, not at all. No. And here's the thing. And I know this is an overstated thing because it's like almost a staple in like fucking a millennial and Gen X culture, is like, you get older and you figure out that the fucking adults that you thought had everything figured out are just flying by the seat of their pants. You know? They're flying by the seat of their pants trying to figure it out. Yet when self-worth is derived from sources outside of self, that is the killer of confidence and self-esteem. Yeah. Like, you just have to, like, that's the problem, is like, if there's one thing that I could go back and tell my high school self early on, is like, quit giving a fuck about what everyone thinks of you. Like, it's so fucking temporary. You'll never see so many of those people in high school ever fucking again. And even to that note, even after high school, you have so many people that all they give a fuck about is what was going on in high school, even in their 30s and 40s. They're still thinking about it. They're still obsessed over it. Thankfully, our society is changing. It's going tooth and nail, no thanks to corporate greed, but it's happening. Yeah, dude, it's going to be completely different. It's going to be unrecognizable in the next 20 years. Failure helps narrow the options down like a map and hunt. Failures are opportunities to become better. Yeah, 100%. You know, that's why you're going to you see, like, even take boxing or MMA, right? You got this undefeated fighter who's the champion now, and he's been undefeated for 20 something matches. At some point, you get comfortable in that, right? You get comfortable in the fact that you're the best. You get comfortable in the fact that that nothing's stopped you yet. So you're fine with it. Look at Ronda Rousey, the perfect example. And then someone comes along and fucking beats the brakes off of you, and all of a sudden it just shatters you because you have this whole thing. Like, to me, the best thing for a fighter is to lose a match. And sometimes that makes them better. Sometimes it breaks them and they never come back from it, right? Failure is fucking so important. I still remember overhearing one of my mom's old friends one time talking shit about my brother and I not being employed because we had recently moved. Damn near exactly her words were, "What's even your worth if you don't have a job?" Which both infuriates me and makes me feel sorry for her. I think you can have worth without having a job, but it fucking makes life a lot harder. Like, I don't think that comes from a place of malice, right? That comes from a place of like concern, most likely. It comes from a place of like just all they know, right? But yeah, like, I'm not saying you're worthless if you don't have a job. I'm just saying, like, it is so much harder. Like, I'm not saying you need to be, you don't need to be like making six figures to be happy, for sure. At 15, I had like an epiphany where I realized almost everyone is second guessing themselves and feels awkward. That gave me a sense of release, almost knowing everyone is dealing with their own awkwardness. They don't even notice mine. No, people are so, like, talking in public, doing, having something happen. Like, there is no one in most cases watching you, especially when you get older. Oh God. I've never felt more invisible than I do as a 40-year-old man. I really just like, I'm not even saying that in a bad way. Like, oh no, it's like more of a just like, wow, really, no one gives a fuck. Like, it's like everyone's involved with their own little TV show, and not in a bad way. Like, you're just kind of fucking living out your life. Like, you might be the NPC in the game, so to speak, but you still have your own shit going on that you're doing, whoever the main character is, you might never meet him. You just happen to be populating their world, or vice versa. I think the pinnacle of life worth is not what you do for a living, but how you live. Yeah, 100%. How you lead your life, right? How you how you affect or treat the people that come in and touch your lives, whether you're on a broad base level, like maybe you're a large personality and you talk to a lot of people, or whether you're just like this stream right now. All you can only be measured by the way you live and by the way you treat other people. And like, it's going to be very important to me to land that with my kid. It's going to be very important for me to be upfront. Like, I think that's a big thing. It's like there's a weird pride fucking with most parents, like especially older generation parents, where they're like, I can't let my kids know that I don't fucking know what's going on. I can't let my kids, I got to be the strong one. And there's sometimes where you have to be strong just to kind of hold it together for the family. But like sometimes like the pride is so fucking powerful that it won't let you just be like, look at your kid and be like, I don't fucking know, man. Like, I don't know. And that's okay. It's okay to say you don't know, right? It sounded pretty malicious, but I think it also speaks to how different their culture versus ours was. Yeah, of course. Of course. I think it was more of a concern thing. I don't know if it was malicious, but who knows? Some people treat losses as failures and some people treat them as opportunities to learn and improve. Yeah. You have to remember that many of that generation were essentially tormented, not raised. Yeah, that's true. Or neglected. Tormented and or neglected.